Welcome to week 2 of the BTFL season 3. 2 0-1 teams, the Buccaneers and the Panthers, coming off of big losses in week 1. But this week was all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady with 11 for 14 passing, 77% pass completion, 302 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. 4 of them go to Keyshawn Johnson. And you'll see the 3 of them here as Keyshawn Johnson, Tom Brady, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers absolutely roll over the Carolina Panthers to win this game 35-7. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 1-1. The Panthers are still lowly at 0-2. Another game between 2 0-1 teams, the Chargers and the Lions at Ford Field. Phillip Rivers still not playing in this game, so Dan Fouts would take over, and LaDainian Tomlinson would begin another game of a really bad outing. Second straight, as this time he coughs up the ball, recovered by the guy with knives on his hands, Benny Blades, and Matthew Stafford would finish this drive off, giving the ball to the human highlight reel, human joystick, Barry Sanders. The Lions would then kick another field goal as Matthew Stafford would throw the ball to Herman Moore. Herman Moore has a big season here. 5 receptions, 159 yards in this game, and that would lead to a field goal. The Chargers would then give the ball to Charlie Joyner, and he would end up giving the Chargers a really big game as he would catch 6 passes for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Chargers would eventually get this game to a 2-point deficit, but then the Lions will just pack it on, giving it to Herman Moore, and that would lead to a touchdown. And then Dan Fouts trying to get back into this game. The 3rd touchdown of the game to Keenan Allen. Chargers would onside kick the ball, recovered by the Lions. The Lions would win by 2, 23-21. Lions are 1-1. Chargers are 0-2. Super Bowl 40 rematch, Seahawks and Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks would see the first action, throwing it deep down the left side to Steve Largent to around the 4-yard line. Sean Alexander would get the touchdown. But look at Jerome Bettis. He does not have a head of lettuce. He's got 5 rushes, 101 yards in this game as Terry Bradshaw would find the graceful Lynn Swann in the end zone. Lynn Swann himself would have 2 touchdowns, but not so fast. A few drives later, Russell Wilson would scamper to get the Seahawks the lead. 4th quarter, Terry Bradshaw would throw it deep down the left side to a jumping Lynn Swann, and he could go all the way over the century mark. Up by 4 points, 4th and 9 for the Seahawks. Russell Wilson is clutch here, throwing it short to Sean Alexander. The 2005 league MVP would show off his stuff as he has a 2nd straight great week. He goes, boo, 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 get off me. 17 rushes, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns as the Seahawks win 24-21. Seahawks are 2-0. Steelers are 1-1. First Sickos game of the week, Jaguars at Texans, as Deshaun Watson would scramble, but the ball's on the ground. It's a fumble. Ball's recovered by Rasheed Mathis. Jaguars take a 7-0 lead. But this was a big game for Arian Foster's Freeze, as this was his first long run. He would have 11 rushes for 125 yards and a touchdown. And this was the 2nd of his long runs, as he avoids defenders, bobs and weaves, helps get the Texans into Jaguars territory. This would lead to a Chris Brown made field goal as Trevor Lawrence would throw it down the right side to Keenan McCardell for a 41-yard gain. But Arian Foster would get injured after the Jaguars kicked that field goal. He'd be replaced by Dameon Pierce. He'd get injured, and he'd be replaced by Ben Tate. So Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars need to get something going. 4th quarter, Fred Taylor, he catches the big pass as he gets to around the 5-yard line, and then he'll catch the pitch down the right side. Walk-off touchdown for the Jaguars, who would win the game 17-10. Jaguars are 1-1, and the Houston Texans are a lowly 0-2. The all-time great Arizona Cardinals travel to M&T Bank Stadium to play the Baltimore Ravens. Starting off this game, Kurt Warner, the Hall of Famer, would throw an interception over the middle to Dwayne Starks as the Ravens would take over after the Cardinals had kicked the field goal. And Lamar Jackson would throw it deep to Steve Smith Sr., His one catch for 56 yards and a touchdown would put the Ravens up. After a field goal, the Ravens would get the ball back. Pressure in the face of Lamar Jackson, and the ball would be intercepted by Larry Wilson. First pick six of the season, but the Ravens would get it back. Lamar Jackson runs to the right. He scores his second rushing touchdown of the season, and then the Cardinals and the Ravens would start packing it on. Kurt Warner throwing it deep to the ageless wonder, Larry Fitzgerald. 3 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown, putting the Cardinals up by 6 points. Lamar Jackson would make another mistake by giving the ball back, this time to Aeneas Williams. First of 2 interceptions for Aeneas Williams as Kurt Warner, play action rollout bootleg, throws it to David Johnson waiting in the end zone. Cardinals take a 2-possession lead. Now here was a really trippy play. Let's see if you can see what happened here. Priest Holmes would recover this kick to the 32-yard line. Ball's on the ground. It's a fumble. Ball's recovered by Lamar Jackson, the quarterback. How he got on special teams, God only knows how. He must have snuck onto the field. Justin Tucker would onside kick the ball. Ball would be recovered by the Ravens, and we'll see what happens here. Flea flicker play by Lamar Jackson. Ball's intercepted. Game's ended by Aeneas Williams, and the Arizona Cardinals would win this game by the final score of 27-21. Cardinals are 2-0. Ravens are 1-1. The only 2 undefeated seasons in NFL history in the regular season, the Patriots and the Dolphins. The game was tied at the end of the first quarter as Curtis Martin would catch this Tom Brady pass over the middle. Tom Brady with 433 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Dan Marino got into this with Tyreek Hill, who had 7 receptions, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But Tom Brady's showing off these wheels. He's evading defenders, throwing it to Randy Moss. He had 4 receptions, 175 yards, and a touchdown. And this pass would be thrown to Julian Edelman, who had 4 receptions, 51 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But Larry Zonka, the Hall of Famer, would get the ball into the end zone. And then Tom Brady on their next drive, in the fourth quarter, would throw the ball deep to Randy Moss. He would make that catch. And then Julian Edelman, another touchdown over the middle, deadly pass, 28-21. Late in the fourth quarter, Tom Brady would give the ball to Randy Moss for his touchdown. Patriots would win this game 35-28. They're 1-1. Dolphins are 0-2. Welcome to the Sickos Game of the Week. 49ers at Cincinnati Bengals. Not very many points were scored in this game, and here we get it started. As Joe Montana gets sacked, it's a fumble recovered by Geno Atkins. The first points of the season for the Bengals. End of the game, double reverse to Jerry Rice, and the wide receiver GOAT could go all the way. He set many records. He's in for the touchdown, and the 49ers eventually win this game by the final score of 13-7, and the Cincinnati Bengals all time still don't have any offensive points this season. The 1-0 Colts travel to the Titans/Oilers. Eric Dickerson of the Colts would leave the game early, and he would be replaced by Marshall Faulk, and he would get this gun early. As he didn't know Marshall Faulk played for the Colts, but he's an all-time great, and he gets it in for a touchdown. Colts would find themselves in the Titans side of the field again as Peyton Manning play-action rollout bootlegs. First of 2 touchdowns to stately Wayne Manor, who had 5 receptions for 138 yards and a touchdown. Huge play for the Titans/Oilers as this punt would be returned by T.Y. Hilton, avoiding defenders, gets to the 30-yard line. It's a fumble, and the Titans. Haywood Jeffries, first points of the game for the Titans/Oilers. They're on the board, but Peyton Manning deals Raymond Berry his 3rd touchdown of the season, and the Colts will eventually win 21-14. They're 2-0. Titans/Oilers are 0-2. 0-1 NFC North battle. Vikings at Packers at Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers, who had a pretty good week last week, will deal it to Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers had 171 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. This one here to Sterling Sharp, who should be in the Hall of Fame if he's not already. He gets the Packers on the board, 10-0. Aaron Rodgers willing and dealing. Paul Hornick had a bad week last week. He makes up for this one with a big catch, and this one would eventually lead to a Paul Hornick touchdown. Here's the big play by Aaron Rodgers. Who does he think he is, Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson? He's going to run the Packers into the end zone for the touchdown. Packers eventually win this game by the final score 24-6. They're 1-1. Vikings are 0-2. Super Bowl rematch between the Giants and Bills. All time, Thurman Thomas comes back from injury, so we don't have to see O.J. Simpson play. First drive, Eli Manning deals it to Saquon Barkley. He has the touchdown, 19 rushes for 54 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. Jim Kelly, however, would get intercepted at the 1-yard line by Terry Kennard, but then Bruce Smith would safety Eli Manning, and that puts the Bills on the board. And you know what? James Lofton gets on the board again for the Bills. He's got 2 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown. 3rd touchdown of the season, and then Thurman Thomas, coming off of his injury, would get a touchdown for himself. Eli Manning down by almost 2 possessions would throw it deep to Plaxico Burress, and he would not shoot himself in the foot this time, as Plaxico Burress puts the Giants in 2-point formation in this game. Thurman Thomas would make a mistake. He would fumble. Terry Kennard is Johnny on the spot again, as he puts the Giants in good position, and Eli Manning would throw it deep over the middle to Saquon Barkley. He's waiting in the end zone. Giants take the lead. They would not salvage it. They win 28-19, and both teams are 1-1. Big NFC East rivalry between the Cowboys and the Commanders/Redskins. Emmitt Smith was the player of this game as he gets a touchdown in the first quarter. The guy had 15 rushes, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including 2 receptions for 72 yards. He was by far the best player for the Cowboys and helped them get a lot of points, but he was done by halftime when he got injured. He'd be replaced by Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke would then get injured. He would be replaced by Tony Dorsett, and Tony Dorsett would end this game 4 rushes, 48 yards, and 2 touchdowns, leading the Dallas Cowboys to the big win, 35-3. They're 2-0. Redskins/Commanders are 1-1. Another big rivalry here. Chiefs at Raiders, all-time greats. Patrick Mahomes would have a relatively decent game, but the player of the game here would be Jamal Charles, who had 2 receptions for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jerry Rice came back from injury as well, as he helps the Raiders get inside the 5-yard line. And Bo knows Jackson. He knows the end zone to tie this game up. In the fourth quarter, with less than 30 seconds to go, Mahomes throws over the middle to Jamal Charles, and with no more time on the clock, Jamal Charles scores his 2nd touchdown of the game. The Chiefs win 17-10. They are 2-0. Raiders are 0-2. So I know that Peyton Manning is supposed to be the starter in this game, but he got benched for John Elway because of performance-enhancing steroids. Yeah, that's the story I'm sticking with. But you know who didn't have performance-enhancing steroids? Walter Payton would catch his first touchdown of the season, and that was his first touchdown of the game. He would have 2 when all is said and done. But Brandon Marshall played for both of these teams, Broncos and Bears. Walter Payton would get his 2nd touchdown, but it wouldn't be over for the Broncos as John Elway would throw it deep to Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas gets inside the 5-yard line, and that would lead to a Terrell Davis rushing touchdown, his first of 2, as he would help the Broncos get the ball into Bears territory and would finish it off with a flip to the left, and he avoids defenders, getting the ball into the end zone as the Broncos score a lot of consecutive points there, take a 3-point lead. But the Bears, they never say die. Jim McMahon throws it again to Brandon Marshall, and this would lead to another touchdown catch this season by Brandon Marshall. I believe that is his 2nd of the season. 4th down for the Broncos. John Elway gets sacked by Gary Fensick, and eventually the Bears would win 24-17. They are 2-0. Broncos are 1-1. We'll see about Peyton Manning next week. Last game of the highlights, Saints at Rams. Drew Brees and the Saints had a big game last week in overtime against the Texans. Will they have a good one this week as Michael Thomas catches this deep pass, 2 receptions for 113 yards, and that deep touchdown Todd Gurley would make the start over Marshall Faulk. He's still recovering from his injury. And this was a big one because he could go all the way, avoiding defenders. This was 12 rushes, 174 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But Alvin Kamara would get injured in this one, despite having a big week last week where he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He'd be replaced by Deuce McAllister. He's an all-time great. Ball pass over the middle, inside the Rams' red zone to Jimmy Graham. Saints take a 7-point lead, but then the Rams, with Todd Gurley, he's proven to them that he's not Gurley, ties this game up at 14. In the fourth quarter, Drew Brees finds his favorite receiver of all time, Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas gets it inside the 5-yard line to the 1. And then Deuce McAllister plunges it in. He says, Deuce for the touchdown. 4th and 11, last-ditch effort for the Rams. Kurt Warner throws it over the middle to Henry Ellard. He's tackled, turnover on downs. Saints score a field goal. They win 24-14. They're 2-0. Rams are 1-1.